Welcome. My name is Ellie Moriarty. I lead Solve's Economic Prosperity Pillar, and I'm joined by my colleague Eliana, who leads our Innovator program. So happy to have you all here today. I also wanted to mention that we are conducting application clinics in Spanish, in Arabic, and in French, and those recordings will also be available on Solve's website. So we'll be sure to go over any and all questions at the end. As you probably know, there's 2 days and 2 hours left to apply to our global challenges. So feel free to put your questions in the chat in the meantime, and Eliana can help answer those, and then we'll go over any remaining questions at the end. All right, so for those who are new to Solve, we are an initiative of MIT. We've been around nearly a decade with the belief that to achieve a more sustainable and equitable future for all, we need new voices and new ideas, like all the ones that you are submitting. So we launch open calls like the global challenges, in addition to other challenges, to seek exceptional and diverse solutions to the world's most pressing challenges all over the world. So if you are selected for the Global Challenge, you'll be a solver, which means you'll get the backing of our community, the backing of MIT Solve, and the support from our supporters and community to scale your impact and drive lasting change. So here you can see three of our solvers working on their solutions in their various communities. We are always looking for new voices and new leaders in their communities to apply to the challenges. To date, we've selected 330 solver teams, which includes 50 fellows for our Indigenous Communities Fellowship, representing nations across the US and Canada. I should also mention we're running specific application clinics for our Indigenous Communities Fellowship, which will also be recorded and available. To date, our cohort of solvers, 95% of them are still in operation. And to give you a sense of the portfolio, about 2/3 are for-profit, and 1/3 are nonprofit mainly. And 64% of the solutions we've selected are women-led. So as you can see here from our map and the pie chart showing where our applications come in, we really have a global reach. I think to date we've reached or had applications from 180 countries and are always looking to expand that reach and to reach as much of the world as possible. So we really welcome anywhere from around the world to apply. The Global Challenge timeline. So we began thinking about the challenges across the 5 pillar focus areas in the fall and winter. We're currently in this phase right here, where the application is live. So as I mentioned, there's 2 days and about 2 hours left to submit your application, which we'll go over in more detail. But applications are due this Thursday, April 17th at noon. In terms of next steps and what will happen on our end, we will begin soon a screening and reviewing process of all the applications as they advance. As applications advance in the reviewing timeline, they'll then be reviewed by a committee of judges called the Challenge Leadership Group. You can see who some of those folks are on the challenge page. We're still adding more judges, but just to get a sense of who else will be reviewing the applications. And those folks are experts from across the various pillar areas from various geographies. So for folks who advance to the finalist stage, there'll be around 15 of those per challenge, and those folks will go through a interview and pitch process virtually with the judges. For teams who are selected, so around six teams per challenge, so 30 across our 5 challenges. They will be invited to attend and participate in our flagship event in New York City, Solve Challenge Finals, which will be an opportunity to meet the Solve community and various social impact leaders. Selected solver teams will then go through a 9-month support program, which includes workshops, coaching, network, and dedicated custom introductions, along with various other opportunities. And the capstone for selected solvers is our event Solve at MIT, typically taking place on Solve's campus. This is a time to celebrate all that our solvers have accomplished and make sure they have more introductions and resources to amplify their impact. So hopefully you're all well aware of the challenge that you're applying to this year, but wanted to reiterate, we have 5 challenges across economic prosperity, learning, climate, health, and Indigenous Communities Fellowship. So these are really wide-ranging topics, and within each challenge, we have specific dimension areas that we're particularly excited to see applications in those topic areas. However, that does not preclude you from applying if your challenge or solution rather doesn't fit exactly into one of these dimension areas. So what type of solutions are we looking for? Can go over this in more detail. We always seek innovative solutions that are human-centered, designed with, by, and for the communities that they're serving, looking for technology-based solutions as well. So we are always looking for a diverse portfolio of solutions to select across geography and stage of development. And I always say, in meeting some solvers in the past, I had many people say, I didn't think of myself as a solver, or I didn't know if this would be right opportunity for me. But we find that so often, people might have doubts, but they're actually the perfect candidate for this opportunity. So when in doubt, always really encourage you to apply and put your application forward. So what stage do we look for? For the 4 challenges, economic prosperity, learning, climate, and health, we select solutions that are from prototype onwards. So although you're allowed to submit a solution that's a concept, they won't be considered for those 4 challenges. However, for our Indigenous Communities Fellowship, we do support and select concept stage solutions. So there's an eligibility quiz, which Eliana hopefully can drop in the chat, which sort of does a test case to see if you're at the right stage to submit for one of the challenges. And I know I mentioned that we said solutions should be tech-based. Wanted to chat a bit more about how we define technology. So we take a very broad view of what a tech-based solution could be. So this could be, a hardware or software solution. It could be using really cutting edge advanced technologies like AI, robots, drones. It could also be a solution that leverages ancestral technologies and knowledge systems. So we've selected, anything from machine learning platforms to biodegradable sanitary pads to centuries-old irrigation systems, building new techniques. So we find that technology is innovative even if it's existed before, but it's reaching communities, in a new context or a new way, or reaching folks who hadn't previously been reached by this technology responsibly. So I touched on this a bit, but what do you actually get if you are selected as a solver? Again, there'll be 6 teams selected for each of our challenges. So you, as a solver, would receive a $10,000 prize from Solve. And in addition, you would be eligible for additional prize funding. For each of our challenges, we have prize funding, and this is sort of selected at a later stage during the finalist process. And so this would all be announced at Solve Challenge Finals, that event I mentioned in September. You'll also receive, as a solver, tailored capacity building workshops covering topics from PR to monitoring evaluation and business models. We have a fantastic leadership coach. She's one of the most popular parts of our support program. One team member, one leader would receive access to leadership coaching. We also have a list of several different types of in-kind and pro bono resources like software licenses and legal services, as well as dedicated monitoring evaluation support, and a network who will be eager to meet solvers and connect further. Attendance to the 2 flagship events that I mentioned, New York City and in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Also PR and media exposure and select connections both to our past cohort of solvers and the cohort that you would be part of through cohort calls. We like to say once a solver, always a solver. So after the 9-month support program, solvers receive access to various funding opportunities. You would still have access to those pro bono resources, and of course, introductions as our team has capacity. So now let's dive into the nitty-gritty of what you're probably all focused on right now, which is working on your application and submitting. So I know many folks probably have already done this, but to start, you log in and create an account on Solve's platform, and then click Start a Solution. So you're eligible to apply as an individual or as a team. And so if you add team members, they'll also be able to help with the application as well. So to work on your application, there's several different sections. Some are required and some are optional. We, at Solve say that although some things are optional, that we really highly encourage you to put time and effort into those sections. We find that the applicants that are most often selected are the ones that have completely filled out the application. However, that doesn't mean that it needs to be the most wordy or long answer for every question. We still want you to answer things efficiently, but want to make sure you put forward a thoughtful response to each question. Your application will be saved automatically, but because internet connections can be spotty, tech can glitch, we really encourage you to apply and submit your application as soon as possible. And also, if it's helpful for your team and your internet connection, to work offline, complete all the questions and then submit and copy over everything once you're ready. Also, something we see often is a team will post a pitch video on Vimeo or YouTube. However, our team can't access it because the settings haven't been turned on to do so. So if you are submitting a link or a pitch video, just make sure that those settings are turned on so that our team can view it. So once you've completed all the questions, you will be ready to review and submit. As I said, really encourage you all to submit as soon as possible. Like I said, I know we have 2 days left. We are a small but mighty team and tend to get a lot of questions, on the last day. And in order to best support you, we'd love for questions, to be able to address any last minute questions today or tomorrow instead of just Thursday. So really encourage you to apply as soon as possible just to avoid any, bugs or technical glitches. Because you can still edit your application after submitting up until noon Eastern time, so the middle of the day rather than midnight on this Thursday, April 17th. I also wanted to mention that your solution profile and parts of your application will be publicly viewable if you proceed in the process. So your solution profile will be viewable to the public, and if you advance, um, Eliana, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe other parts of the application will also be viewable to the public. Great. Um, we'll finish up these sections as quickly as possible to make the most time for questions, but did want to go over what we are looking for. So this criteria is all available on the website as well. But as you're completing the application, definitely want you to have all of these different pieces in mind. So to start, we're looking to make sure your solution aligns with our challenges, that it's using technology to address one of the global challenges that we've laid out. We'll be looking to see if your solution, pardon me, has the potential to impact the population you're already serving or planning to serve. So for this question, we'll be looking to see if you have a well-developed theory of change, and a thoughtful approach to ensuring that the population you're targeting will be served and impacted positively by your solution. We'll want to make sure that you have a realistic and practical plan for implementing the solution, noting the different things in the context that you might be operating in. Just wanting to make sure that you've, considered things fully and ensured that your team has a feasible approach. We'll also be looking to ensure your solution has an innovative approach. So like I said, this could be a new technology, or this could be just a new way of applying a technology that already exists. It could be a new business model or a new process for solving the challenge. So you could be using an existing technology, say like WhatsApp, but you could be using it to reach a new group of people in a way that this technology hasn't been deployed before. At Solve, we consider that an innovative approach. Human-centered design, this is very important, ensuring that your solution is designed with and for underserved communities, and that your team, so both the team lead and the rest of the team have demonstrated the experience, the relationships, and the knowledge to develop and deliver a successful solution. And if you advance in the selection process, we'll also be looking at in the finalist stage at scalability and looking more at your business model and funding plans and ensuring that you have the financial viability to scale your solution. We'll be looking at partnership potential. So in this question, ensuring that you've made the clear case for why Solve is the right opportunity for you, ensuring that we have the right folks in our network to be able to amplify the impact of your solution, and that you've thought about the potential things that Solve can help unlock for you. For solutions that have a technology that is very novel, we'll also be undergoing additional tech vetting interviews for those solutions in the finalist stage. So as I mentioned, some sort of final reminders. Encourage you to complete the optional questions. We'll be looking through everything in detail. Um, want to encourage you to use the help text for application questions. They can link out to resources and also past examples of successful applications. So that can be a helpful resource. We also have the eligibility quiz that I mentioned to ensure if this is sort of the right fit for you and your solution. We have an MIT X course available on business and impact planning for social enterprises. And we have a Become a Solver page, which I believe Eliana has linked or can link, which goes through details on the types of solutions that we're looking for in more detail and more details about how we score the applications. So some frequently asked questions, and then I'll open it up for your questions. How long does it take to complete the application? It takes several hours. As I said, I know we have 2 days, so it's definitely possible to still, create and submit your application starting today. But do keep in mind that it'll take a few hours and that you'll want to submit as soon as possible. You can apply to multiple challenges. So say your solution aligns both with climate and health. You can apply to both. However, if your solution does advance in both challenges, you will be asked at a certain stage to just pick one that you're really want Solve to consider you for. And if you are selected for being a solver, you should expect to spend around 25 hours over the course of 9 months. So, this includes in-person events and also required and virtual programming. We always say, solvers who it tends to be the case who sort of give the most to the program and invest and engage in the various optional opportunities typically get the most out of the program. So there is flexibility there, but 25 hours is what we say is the typical commitment. So final reminders, submit your application as soon as possible. And the application deadline is this Thursday, April 17th at noon. So middle of the day Eastern time rather than midnight. Your solution profile will be visible. An important note on ChatGPT, we realize these can be helpful tools to help as you're thinking through and potentially drafting your application. However, in your submission, we really want to be hearing from you, in your own words, with your own details and thought process. So sometimes it can be clear on the other side if someone has just used ChatGPT and hasn't inserted their own voice. So really discourage you from just submitting something from ChatGPT. We want to hear from you in your voice. You can review the Become a Solver page. And as I've said, don't wait until the last minute. Tech issues can happen, and we want to avoid those as much as possible so we can review your application. So we hope you come solve with us. I'm really excited to dive into your questions. This is a photo from our Solve Challenge Finals event in New York City a couple of years ago. And I'm really excited to select the 2025 Solver class. So I